if you're watching this, you probably haven't heard from your ex in weeks, maybe months, and your brain has already decided, I'm never going to hear from them again. Well, today I want to explain why that thought shows up so strongly and why it feels so convincing, and why it's often not the truth, even though it feels like it in the moment. This video isn't about manifesting or wishful thinking or clinging to hope. It's about understanding what's actually happening with your brain when there's silence from an ex, so that you stop letting fear run the story. But first, hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. And welcome back, my beautiful no contact army. Have you downloaded my app Silencio? Well, whether you have or you haven't, at the moment I have a special offer. If you leave a review for the app, not just a rating, a written review, you just have to send a screenshot of your review and we will send you a copy of my book, No Contact Secrets. So I look forward to receiving your reviews and sending you the book. And if you too would like to join our army, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button and the bell notification, and you're in. Okay, so when an ex goes silent, most people assume that silence equals rejection. But that's not because silence actually means rejection. It's because the human brain does not tolerate uncertainty well, unfortunately. So your nervous system fills in the gap quickly, and it does not choose a hopeful interpretation. When there's no new information, it assumes the worst, as I'm sure you've noticed. And from an evolutionary standpoint, it's because no signal, so no information, no data, equals something's wrong, something's up. So your mind doesn't say, oh, nothing's happening yet. It says, I've been abandoned. It's so melodramatic. But that's not intuition. That's threat detection. That conclusion hurts, obviously, but it's certain. And certainty feels safer to the brain than not knowing, than ambiguity. Because your brain would rather believe something painful, like they're never coming back, than sit down in the unknown. And I hate that this is the way we're wired. But I understand it's for survival. The brain is a hater. But don't worry, we're going to outsmart it. Yes, we are. So, hope feels unstable when you haven't heard anything, when you're in no contact. Waiting feels vulnerable. Not knowing feels like loss of control. And so your mind jumps to, oh, they've moved on. I didn't matter. If they wanted to, they would have reached out. And those feelings feel true because they give the nervous system a sense of finality. But feeling true is not the same as being true. It's just the brain trying to shut the emotional door so it doesn't keep hurting. The brain hates open loops, as I talked about in my video, 7 reasons why the no contact rule works on everyone. And I'll put the link to that in the upper right hand corner on YouTube. So even a negative outcome that feels certain is calming to the nervous system instead of an open loop of not knowing. And so weeks pass, months pass, and time starts to feel like proof. Weeks or months of silence feel like evidence. But time is not evidence. It's just time. And in fact, one of my clients heard from his ex, and they broke up 9 months ago. Now, there's been minimal contact during those 9 months, and it's always been his ex who has reached out. But the other day, she reached out, and she invited him to come over. Now, if you had asked him the day before, after 9 months of a breakup, hey, what do you think the chances are of your ex texting you tomorrow and saying, come over? He probably would have said 1%. Because it's never 0%. There's always a chance, right? Unless they're dead. So he would have said 1%. Meanwhile, the next day, out of the blue, seemingly, she texted, come over. So you never know. But the problem is that your mind commits a cognitive error called availability bias. And people assume, well, if it hasn't happened yet, it won't. I haven't heard from them, therefore, nothing is happening or it never will happen. And that's a cognitive shortcut, but it's not reality, as you can see with my client. But internally, X's often think without acting, so they're thinking about you, but they're not doing anything yet. They suppress urges. They want to reach out, but they make themselves stop. They wait for the right moment. It's like, well, maybe tomorrow. No, okay, maybe the next day, maybe next week. They feel shame, pride, and fear, but they don't want to reach out yet. Or they assume you don't want to hear from them, right? Especially if you're in no contact and haven't broken it. But silence doesn't tell you what they're thinking and feeling, because X's often reach out after emotional processing, so they process their feelings, failed rebounds, it didn't work, calming down, missing you, life events. I had another client who her ex reached out after he had been involved in an accident. So again, she thought it was over. It had been a long time since the breakup, and all of a sudden, poof, out of the blue, he wanted to talk to someone, and he wanted to talk to her. So silence doesn't mean that nothing is happening internally. It just means that nothing is happening outwardly. Doesn't mean there's nothing going on. And sometimes there is actually a lot going on. You just don't know it yet. And that's why a lot of times after people get back together, then they find out their ex wanted to contact them. Their ex was scared. Their ex thought they didn't want to hear from them, blah, blah, blah. They thought their ex was just, chilling, having a good old time. It's like, no. So no contact removes external reassurance, because there's no texts, no updates, no feedback. And so your brain goes into overdrive trying to make meaning out of nothing. And that's why people in no contact always think, oh, this isn't working. And that's not because it's not working. It's because the mind is uncomfortable without data. So that thought is about self-protection. If you convince yourself it's over, then you stop hoping, you stop waiting. It's the brain saying, hey, let's grieve instead of staying emotionally open. But that doesn't mean that whatever you're thinking is accurate. It means that your system is trying to reduce pain. Now, something interesting is that a breakup activates the same region of the brain that lights up when you burn your hand. Your brain wants the pain to end, so it searches for certainty. And negative conclusions feel horrible, but at least they're certain. That's why people often ask, did I blow it? Did I blow it? Is it over totally? I've always hated that question because it comes from such a powerless standpoint. And so from now on, anyone who asks that question, I'm going to direct them to this video. Also, your attachment system wants connection. And when it doesn't get it, it goes into meaning-making mode, MMM. And it doesn't come up with neutral stories. It makes up stories that simplify the pain. They've moved on. I didn't matter. If they wanted to, they would. They're never coming back. And those stories give your nervous system something to hold on to, even though it hurts. Also, under stress, your mind collapses time and decides, if it hasn't happened yet, it's never going to happen. But emotional processing is not linear. People reach out after 45 days, 60 days, 6 months, a year, a life event, a failed rebound, a calm nervous system. So the timeline in your head is only arbitrary. It is not factual. But your brain would rather grieve and shut the door than stay emotionally open and vulnerable. That's why the brain is a hater. So saying they won't reach out is the mind trying to kill hope, reduce longing, avoid disappointment. It's protection, not prophecy. So, how do we get around this brain wiring? So instead of thinking, oh, they're never going to reach out, every time you have a negative thought, instead say, well, we'll see. So if your mind says, they're gone for good, you say, well, we'll see. Your mind says, they're never coming back, we'll see. And that way, you're not fighting with your brain, because if you try to think positive and go, yes, they're definitely coming back, your brain's going to be like, yeah, right. You're deluding yourself. Just stop it. They're not coming back. Right? So there's no point in fighting with the brain. You got to outsmart it. And that's why anytime you have a negative thought, as I said, just revert back to, we'll see. We'll see. And you got to do that. You can't just say, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so silence is not a verdict. It's not proof. It's just absence of data. And absence of data is where anxious minds invent imaginary conclusions. If you're in no contact and your brain is telling you it's over, don't believe it. That thought is usually fear talking, not truth. Okay? So now I want to hear from you. Which negative thought do you keep looping in terms of ever hearing from your ex? Do you say, oh, I'll never hear from them, or oh, they moved on, or oh, they don't care? So comment below and let me know what your negative thought is. And in the meantime, if you would like my help to get your ex back, you can contact me at theartoflove.net/coaching, and we will send you the rates. They are not on the website. If you found this video helpful, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. If you're listening to this as a podcast, also hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. And remember, love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.